Le Ginestre su Todi is an elegant stone farmhouse with a beautiful view of Todi in the background. It's precisely where we are today to meet with Francois, Nejla, and Alex so they can tell us their story of how they were able to purchase this characteristic property thanks to the help of their consultant, Alberto Zardo. We met Francois on his summer holiday and we'll meet with him shortly. See you at the property. Francois, Nejla, Alex, first off, welcome. Congratulations on the purchase of your new farmhouse, Le Ginestre su Todi. Can you start off by introducing yourselves?
Sure.
I'm Alex.
You're Alex. I'm Francois, and I work in Lebanon, actually. And we wanted a piece of land that was really in a dream place, and we found it.
And I'm Nejla. I work in Istanbul, and we would like to meet in a wonderful place with my husband between the travels, yeah.
What led you to kind of land on Le Ginestre su Todi?
Well, first you have to choose a region. We wanted a region in the very center of Italy because history is very important for us. And we wanted to be near the Etruscan land, so it was either Tuscany or Umbria. We somehow felt that Umbria is still a bit more authentic than Tuscany, which is a bit crowded, let's say. And we love a few cities around here like Assisi and Gubbio. So that's what decided us to choose this region. But then there were a few other criteria that were important for us. We travel a lot, so the distance to Fiumicino airport was also very important. Here we are an hour and 40 minutes from Fiumicino, which is still doable, let's say. So we had a kind of list of criteria when we arrived here. One of them was the location, the distance. The city itself was not that important because there are so many beautiful places in Italy that anyway, you're always 10 kilometers from something wonderful, so it was easy. So we quickly realized that the most important thing for us is not only a house, but a property. Something that has been very well taken care of, a nice layout and so on. And that's somehow how we landed here. But the first step was, of course, we needed to find a real estate agent to help us navigate the complexity, and that's when we met Alberto.
Alberto comes in?
Yes, and through the website, very honestly, because the website was very well designed. We enjoyed browsing it from abroad, especially when you live abroad. You know, you don't have the luxury to spend a lot of time here going around, so you have to pre-select a few properties. And the website was really well designed, the photos were good quality, and the information was enough for us to make a first pool of selection. And so we got in touch with Alberto and said, well, maybe it's time to start a few visits. And that's how it all started.
Fantastic. So what features, what are your favorite features of this property? What's your favorite thing about this property?
You want to answer?
Yeah, I think it's perfectly done, to be honest. Everything well taken care of and then designed very well, and there was nothing, actually almost nothing that we could add more. So that's why it was really easy to make a decision for us.
So when we saw this, we thought, wow, that's really impressive, because it was built by a person 20 years ago. Actually, it's not a very old property. He got the authorization. There was a legal possibility at that time to build new houses, and he went into a full design of the property. And he lived here for 20 years, which means that he really enjoyed improving it on a daily basis. So you don't even ask yourself the question, is the switch in the right place or not? Because everything has been thought of, everything has been properly designed. So that's what we were looking for. And for us, it was a very important criteria, because at our age, we don't want to spend the next 20 or 40 years, you know, improving or designing or whatever. We wanted a place that was really ready to be enjoyed, a turnkey place, and that's what we found here. So when we saw it, we immediately said that's exactly what we were looking for. And I think Alberto understood our requirement very well from the start, so that was something very important for us, and he really spent a lot of time with us when we selected properties, and then the visits were very well organized. But then when the second part arrived, which was the actual negotiation and so on, that's where Alberto gave his best, actually. Because so far it was mostly the website, a few visits and so on. It's easy to organize, any agency could do that. But then came the part when you have to buy. You have to negotiate with the seller and you have to find the financing. And the financing in Italy for foreigners is a little bit tricky. So there are things that you need to know. You need advice, you need to know how you're going to go about it. And you need patience.
Patience is key.
The one thing, the patience is key, and the one thing you don't want as a buyer is having your real estate agent calling you every day that, have you made a decision? Have you made a decision?
No,
And
no, in fact.
you know, this purchase lasted more than a year. So it took a year to finalize everything. The owner had some constraints, we had some constraints.
Yeah,
and
the
during
biggest
all
point
that
was-
time, we had a very direct communication with Alberto. He was asking me from time to time, how do things stand? I was telling him, well, that's the way. He said, yeah, it's logical. Maybe you should also check this and check that and so on. We never felt that really we had someone on our back trying to push us to make the decision or to find a solution. I think Alberto trusted from the start that we want this house. He was convinced that we were serious because, you know, many buyers, can change their mind. So, and it was very important for me to have this relationship to say, okay, Alberto, I tell you what are the problems. I tell you how I'm trying to solve them one by one. And then he was there as an advisor, never as someone who tries to push you. And that was important for us.
One of my questions was, over your overall experience with Alberto here, which I know you've already just told us a little bit.
I said half of it actually. So
Yeah,
I'd like to come to the second half because once we signed and once we had to go through the final process of financing and finalizing, things were very well taken care of. So all aspects of the property were checked one by one. It's not easy for a foreigner to check the land register stories, to find the right notary, things like this. So all this was really in good hands, and each time I had a question, Alberto said, yeah, we have already checked that and this is okay, the property is fine. One of the key points when you buy a property in Italy is conformity. If any point is not conform, you run into future problems. So it's the role of the real estate agent to advise you on that and make sure that what you are buying has no trap, actually. So that was the first part. So all this went very well until we signed at the notary. And then I had a very good surprise. We had some additional service actually given by the agency with utilities. Because you arrive here, you got the key. But what about the water? What about the electricity? What about everything? And this is when we realized that first we needed a codice fiscale, so a tax number, which Alberto provided. The year we are used to it in 24 hours or even less, we got the number. And then we had assistance to transfer the contract of water and electricity to our name. So that's not easy to understand. Like in every country, you have electricity company, distributors, you don't know which one is which one.
It can be complicated.
It can be complicated. And here we got the assistance until the final step and until they made sure that the turnkey was really turnkey.
Was
and
really
that the key was
transferred,
not stuck in the door, We are very happy actually to give this testimony today because it was really a smooth experience on something that could have been much more complicated. And I will not say it was simple, it's always complicated to buy a property, but when you have the insurance that at least the difficulties you are facing are the ones that you have to face and not the additional ones because a real estate agent is not doing his job, then you feel much better, and much more comfortable. And that was something that was really important for us during all this process.
Now I have a question for Alberto. What part of this experience impressed you the most? What will you remember the most about your experience?
First of all, thank you, Francois, for your compliments. I'm happy that you are satisfied about our service. But from the beginning, I have a great feeling with Francois because I noticed immediately that he is really a determined person and really practical. And he explained me what he was searching, what he wants. So for me, it was clear what is the object that you is willing to buy. But for me, it was a great challenge, especially for to find all the solution in terms of timeline, because the purchase, he was thinking to buy the property starting from the offer, but then he need 1 or 2 years at the beginning to finalize the purchase. So the most difficult things was to convince the owner to accept that part of the negotiation. But all the the people around the table were very trustable, so then we would find.
Yeah, that made things easier actually. Everybody understood the constraints of each other actually and accepted that, okay, that's the best solution, let's try to do it this way. But there needed to be trust.
Yeah, but when Francois meet personally the owner, they find a very
Good understanding.
good understanding.
Yeah, one thing that I have to mention is that for foreigners who want a house as a second house, so as not a resident in Italy, the financing can be a little bit complicated. And here also the assistance from the real estate agency with the broker and the coordination with the broker is extremely important, unless of course you bring all the cash on the table and you don't have this problem, but most people would like to have at least a partial financing. So here the coordination between the broker and the real estate agency is key.
Alex, how are you liking the property?
I think it's really good. Of course, there's a few bug problems.
Yeah, there are bugs, yes.
But other than that, the swimming pool is really nice. The property itself, the house,
Yeah,
it's well organized.
and it's fun to be part of the organization. No? Alex is now the specialist of the swimming pool, for example.
The swimming pool is the most important.
Yeah, so he's the one in charge of the robot, of the cover, of everything. So everybody plays their part. And Najla found also her way. We understood the kitchen is the most important for her, so it is her territory. And then the family, there is space enough here to receive people, so the family is really happy around here.
So I have one final question, obviously, to wrap up, and that is, would you recommend Great Estate to your friends, family, or even international buyers looking to buy a property in Italy?
Absolutely. From the first step, the website, which is well designed, until the last step, which is the professionalism and the constant trust and professionalism until the end of the process, until the property is signed, there was absolutely no hiccup. It was extraordinary, so I wouldn't hesitate. And I give
Bravo, Alberto.
my name and phone number for any recommendation that is needed if anyone wants to buy a dream place like this one in Italy.
Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for being here today. Thank you for your testimony. Thank you also to Alberto, obviously, for your participation. And
we give a big thank to Alberto for finding this place for us and allowing us to achieve our dream.
Thank you.
fantastic.
You're welcome.
I know that makes us happy, so thank you everyone again, and we'll see you at the next Great Estate interview.